Welcome to another mobile edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. Guys and girls, I'm a retired New York City police detective with 20 years of law enforcement. And if you like all things true crime related from the police perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon when I go live or upload another video. Breaking news out of Moab, Utah. The Petito and Schmidt family, the Gabby Petito family, have filed a wrongful death notice of intention, a wrongful death notice against the Moab City Police Department. This is breaking news. I kind of felt like this was coming all along. I want to talk to you guys about it today. We saw Hey JB on WFLA now. He had instant coverage. I was inside in the office. I was watching. I was commenting with you all. There was a lot of you from WFLA, his live stream, and I saw some of the great comments from the Crime Time with DutyRon family, and I love and appreciate each and every one of you. We're all about supporting victims and their families here, but we're also about speaking about both sides of the coin. But before we get into that, I want to say a special thank you and thumbs up to each and every one of my Patreon supporters, the channel members, and all the folks who positively engage. It's always a great thing when you can get your side of how you feel out in a respectful way. You know, we see a lot of other things going on some of the other streets on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. It gets kind of ugly, and I appreciate and respect each and every one of you for respectfully voicing your side, because now there's going to be people who agree with this and there's going to be people who disagree with it. I get it. I get it. We're all, we can all have different opinions. We can agree to disagree and things of that nature. But breaking out of Moab City, Utah police, a wrongful death filing of notice of intent by a law firm in Utah against the city police department there in the wrongful death of Gabby Petito. I have mixed feelings about this one because, again, I am a retired New York City police officer, and I'm going to give you a police officer and a detective, but I'm going to give you, as I did when I went over the body cam footage. Remember, there was two pieces of body cam footage released. There was the initial first angle, and then there was the second angle. We are all, if you're just like me, we're all waiting to see or hear if the females from the U.S. Park Police, those were the officers in those like tan kind of police uniforms. They were there, and there was, I believe, two female police officers, or maybe it was one. But it doesn't matter. The female police perspective, we all want to see that, right? We want to see what was said. We want to hear what kind of engagement the female officer had. Heidi Lee, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Joey Brooklyn, all the moderators are here. Lorna McKenzie, thank you for being here from the UK. And everybody, thank you. Eddie T, Scout Inquirer, look at them all. Everybody's here. Yeah, again, Gabby had blood smeared on the left side of her face and on her cheek. She had a bruise on her arm. I believe it was her right arm. There was a lot of things that happened in this car stop. How about the infamous phone call that we all heard, the police dispatch, the male police dispatcher, when he was told by a complaining witness, somebody on the scene outside of that establishment, said that he saw Brian Laundrie smacking Gabby Petito. He was smacking her, and you heard the 911 dispatcher say, he was smacking her? We all have these questions about why. Why didn't the police ask Brian Laundrie or Gabby and mention to them there was a report of a complaining witness who saw your boyfriend, your fiance, smacking you? So, the police, did they handle this in the proper fashion? Did they handle this the way, say, a police department like New York City would have handled it? No. And I said this in my first analogy, my first body cam footage review. I did two of them, and I'll link them right down below or somewhere over here at the end of the video. I'll link in cards my recap of the two body cam footages that were released. But I said it from the beginning and I'll say it again. And I'm not just saying this right now because of where we are in this situation. I, as a New York City police officer, and again, it's a different jurisdiction, it's different areas. I have made arguably hundreds and hundreds of cross complaint domestic violence arrests. In other words, I'll give it to you in layman's terms, in a cross complaint. I come to the scene, there's a wife who has a bruise and a scrape on her face, and then we separate them and we interview the husband or the boyfriend or a significant other, and he says, she came at me and she scratched me and punched me and kicked me and bit me, and he has scratches on his face, bruising, and now we have two arrests. It's a cross complaint. She says that he hit her. He's saying that that she hit him. It's a cross complaint. We arrest them both for liability reasons and for doing the right thing. And you let the district attorney and the courts figure it out. I feel in this case, and I feel strongly about this, that in the Gabby Petito Brian Laundrie situation, and I said this months and months and months ago, you could go back. This is before this $50 million lawsuit was filed. I said that they should have both been arrested, and the courts and the judge and the district attorney and a social worker could have interviewed them both separately and figured out what was going on with them, and then made a decision on whether they should have been charged in a court of law with a domestic violence assault, and they could have been afforded counseling and so forth. But that brings me fast forward, folks, to the question, the wrongful deaths of Gabby Petito. The wrongful death of Gabby Petito, is the Moab Police Department responsible for that? In other words, hear me out. If they would have arrested the two of them and then separated them, and then they got back together after the arrest process happened, forget about the questioning of whether Gabby would have called her parents, because we now know that she didn't, in fact, tell her parents about what happened, about the police encounter. She did communicate with her parents. I think she went to her dad, Joe, and asked him to send, I think, a Domino's pizza or some type of pizza to her hotel room when Brian left. So there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of speculation here. We're all saying and making our own theories and our speculations and our thoughts that, well, if Gabby had in fact been arrested, she would have made that phone call that, you're afforded one phone call when you get arrested. You can either call your attorney, you could call somebody who's going to help you. You're afforded one phone call when you get arrested. Some people that I've arrested, I've let them make two phone calls or three. It depends on how the interaction is going. But you're afforded a call. But who are we to say that she was going to call her parents and say, hey, the relationship's not going good? It seems like she kind of held the information from her parents, because after August 12th, when this incident happened, don't forget, the car stop happened August 12th of 2021. We don't know the exact date that Gabby Petito was murdered by Brian Laundrie, but we estimate that it was somewhere around August 27th to September, early in the month of September, maybe September 1st. But we estimate that somewhere around August 27th, which is a significant time after August 12th. If she in fact was separated, again, like we said, they were separated. She went with the van. He was afforded the night at a safe house, and she was the aggressor and he was the victim. At no time between August 12th and August 27th did she mention to her parents, at least that I know of. Now, the parents may come out in depositions and in court proceedings, and when this wrongful death suit goes forward, we may hear from Gabby Petito's parents that she did in fact make a cry for help, out for help to her. So there's so many there's so many gray areas in this, because you cannot predict what an arrest would have made happen. We can't say definitively, and we can't say with 100% certainty, if an arrest of both of them were executed, that Gabby Petito would have still been alive. Because to me, and I'm a reasonable thinker, just like all of you guys are. To me, it seems like she told the police that we're a team. You can't separate us. We're a team. We love each other. Please don't separate us. She didn't want to be separated from him. So there was an hour of time where she was in that back seat, or whatever, 40 minutes of time when she was in that back seat, where she could have said to that female police officer, "Hey, I'm scared. I don't want to be with him. If her relationship with him was that tumultuous and that dangerous and that you know bad, where she feared for her life, she had not one, not two, three, four police officers that she could have confided in while she was separated from him and got herself safe. Now, she didn't choose to do that, and we don't know why she didn't choose to do that. Could it have been that he had her that scared and mind controlled that she was afraid to do that? That's a potential, right? But the police should have, and I'll say this till the sun goes down, and I'll continue to say this, they should have, if they were unsure, and we know under no uncertain terms from the body cam footage, we know that those police officers were not sure of exactly what they should do. Remember, the bearded police officer went to the computer, the MDT. We call them mobile digital terminals. He went to his MDT and he Googled the statute, and they read the statute. And a few things that he said about the statute are just bone chilling and just make my hair on my arm stand up and the hair on the back of my neck stand up, because the one guy says, how are we to know that we don't let them go from here and he winds up killing her? We got to separate them. So he made one of the police officers made a statement. It might not have been exactly that, but it was words to that effect. And that to me was a big wow moment, looking at it after the fact, that he actually said that. I just wish that for their own, for police sake, this is how I operated, guys. Jamie, thank you. This is how I operated. If I was not sure that there was a clear and definitive one aggressor in a domestic violence incident, I always arrested both parties. Why? Because how can I be the judge and jury on the scene? If there's visible injuries, which in this case, there was visible injuries, not only to Brian Laundrie, people argue that he might have scratched himself. There's like all kinds of things that are being spoken about, but he had injuries. They mentioned it on his face. He had it on his arm, his right arm. And he was saying it was her when they were going to get pulled over. She was smacking at him and hitting at him. But I would imagine that is bullshit. It happened during their interactions outside that restaurant, when there was that whole infamous scene where he had the argument inside and he argued with the waiter or waitress and all of that stuff. So I feel that, the injuries were on both of them. They had an hour to figure it out. There was no supervisor that came to the scene. There was no sergeant. There was no lieutenant. If you are unsure as a police officer, I don't care if you're the senior police officer on the scene, you call and you ask for a supervisor. You ask for a ranking officer, and they did not do that. They failed to do that. So the reports that were made, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the super sticker. Much appreciated. Thank you for anybody who gives support during or after, after their lives. You can give those super thanks. Thank you to everybody who does those super thanks. I'm just trying to get this off my chest because I want to just get my thoughts out. The wrongful death lawsuit is not only on the Moab City Police Department, it also names Chief Edge, Assistant Chief Palmer, and all the officers who responded that day. So the three male police officers, and I believe the fourth was a female. So this lawsuit, the wrongful death lawsuit, is not only against the Moab City Police Department, it also names personally the police chief, Edge, the assistant chief, Palmer, and all of the officers who responded that day. So they're personally suing those police officers as individuals, those executives and those police officers as individuals, and they're also suing the Moab City Police. that is the entire police agency. Again, Gabby had blood on the left side of her face, smeared on her cheek, and a bruise on her, I believe, right arm. This lawsuit against the police department, the wrongful death lawsuit, is not has nothing to do with the civil suit by Honorable Hunter W. Carroll in Sarasota County Court, actually the civil court. So it has nothing to do with that lawsuit. It's not going to have any effect on that civil suit against the laundries. This is separate and has nothing to do, and it won't be brought up during the civil case in August of 2023. That's supposed to commence. This new lawsuit from today, $50 million, has nothing to do with the civil suit over in Sarasota County Court. So for those of you who are asking those questions, I hope that answers it. Let me see. There was another super chat came in, and then I want to get to all of the questions that people are asking. Let's see what this says. Ramona, thank you so much for the support. I hope everyone is doing well. I send prayers for your mother-in-law. I hope she gets well. She's having a problem with swallowing today. They had to suction out her, for her. There's a lot of things going on there. So thank you so much for those sincere prayers. Let's look to the chat and see if there's any questions. I want to go to the chat and try to pick out some of the questions. Blonde Yankee says, hi, I'm late. Lorna McKenzie says, Gabby was young and inexperienced. I agree. Hi, Charlotte Walker. Lee Perry said, I would have preferred them suing Brian's parents. They deserve to be held accountable. They are suing Brian's parents in Sarasota County. The cops were buddying up with Brian Laundrie and buying what he was selling, and it was nauseating. Terry, I agree. It seemed like they were, listening to him and laughing, and there was a lot about that stop that I had a problem with. But again, also, they took a lot of time. Ann says, DutyRon, what do you think of the Chief Brett Edge going on FMLA right after this happened? He went on a leave of absence because he kind of maybe, and this is my opinion, maybe he felt like, that he was going to take the fall for this. I don't know. It would just be pure speculation, but that's a good question. Scout Inquirer says, much love and prayers to your mother-in-law, DutyRon. Thank you. Hi, Gemma's Grace Journey. How are you, Gemma? From the UK, from my house to yours, sending love and respect. Thank you, Gemma. I'm just looking at the comments. I got a second device here that I'm looking at real quick. Gerda says, Gerda Coates from all the way from Africa. Police off the cuff pronounces it Katzi. I say Coates, but Katzi. For me, the emotional state she was in should have been a clear sign to the police. He was way too calm and friendly, DutyRon. I agree. Legal-minded friends, Karen Cole comes in with a question. Would arresting both prevent this victim from calling? Wait a minute. Would arresting both prevent victims from calling 911? I don't think so. I think that if you're at the point where you have to call 911, it's a bad situation in your mind. I don't think that would prevent it. Let me look to more questions. Hello, Lieutenant Pete Pranzo. Thank you so much for coming in. Always great to see you, boss. Thank you for being here. Listen, I feel strongly that there's no perfect way of handling a domestic violence call. But when you have two people that are out of towners, that should be a red flag immediately. When you have somebody that's from out of town, in other words, when I would stop somebody in New York, in my geographical area of employment, and they said, oh, we're from Wyoming, or we're from California, or we're from Florida, we're from Pennsylvania, I right away would question a little bit more about what's going on. Like, hey, what are you guys doing here? And they did do that. They did mention, we're on a van, van life. She talked about her website. She talked about doing her live streaming. So these officers did kind of some of the things that are on my checklist of that I would do as an investigator. Like, hey, what's going on between the two of you? Why are you crying? So there was a lot of good that they did. But when it came down to the nitty gritty of the brass tacks of getting down to figuring out, because we don't always have the magic wand. Sometimes you can't get it right on the scene. but we are not afforded here in New York City because of the sheer volume that we handle of taking an hour out with two complainant witnesses, two potential or one victim. We don't have time for an hour to sit and do this. So we have to figure it out quickly. We are quick to just use those handcuffs and lock up both parties because we don't want to leave and have a tragedy happen at home. Because A, when you have police involved, it escalates the situation, and B, when you do not do something, you do not take any kind of action, and you just tell. There was, before O.J. Simpson and everything, there was a time where people would say, "Oh, just take a walk." Hey, you cool off, take a walk, and come back. All right, let's listen to a little bit of the press conference from this morning on WFLA Now. My good friend JB, let's listen to a little bit of this, and then we'll wrap it up, and we'll take a couple more questions. This is the attorney for the Petito and Schmidt family, and they're going to talk about the lawsuit filed in Utah against the Moab City Police Department. Take it away, Josh. Thank you.
For Brian Stewart, and he can bring you up to date on the legal process and what we're doing. We're filing this morning what's known as a notice of intent, and Brian will address that and the legal implications. And then we'll give you 10 minutes with the step parents of Gabby Petito. I've asked them not to comment on specific evidence, but you are free to ask questions, and they're free to comment on why they're bringing this lawsuit and what their feelings are. Let me begin with just a brief opening statement to set the stage. Gabby Petito's parents have asked the law firms of Parker and McConkie and Zimmerman Brewer to represent them in a lawsuit against the Moab Police for their negligent failure to first understand the law and enforce it, and second, for the wrongful death of their daughter. In this regard, this morning, we have filed a notice of claim, which is the first step in initiating future litigation. Gabby's parents are bringing this lawsuit to honor Gabby's legacy by working to save the lives of victims of domestic violence throughout the United States and the world. This lawsuit is only one part of a broader effort to raise awareness of intimate partner violence and its potential dangers. They have set up the Gabby Petito Foundation. This foundation has already donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to groups focusing on intimate and domestic violence, including a $100,000 donation last week to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which I'm sure you're aware of. They hope their efforts to help will save lives and give meaning to the senseless, avoidable, and tragic murder of their daughter. Brian?
Good morning. Thank you for being here. As my partner Jim said, my name is Brian Stewart, and I'm grateful to be with you today and grateful for your attention to this important case. I will just say that at the outset that the purpose of this lawsuit is just one part of the family's broader effort to raise awareness and education to protect victims of domestic violence, and to help make sure that our governmental institutions are held to account and that they are given the resources and training that they need to do their jobs in the effective way that they would want to, and to do it in a way that protects the most vulnerable members of our society and will prevent tragedies such as this one from happening again. Our our purpose in filing the lawsuit, and the family wants to be clear about this, is not to punish individual officers, but is to honor the efforts of dedicated police officers. And while it is tough to do, we feel a responsibility to support them by demanding that changes needed to help them do their job better will be accomplished. We believe that the only effective way to correct these problems is to hold our institutions accountable for their failures, including in law enforcement. But as we said, this is just part of a larger effort to help other people and other victims of domestic violence understand that there are resources and that there are helps available, and that they can rely on those and rely on the response of law enforcement. The family will tell you, but they, throughout this last year, have been received many messages from victims of domestic violence who have told their stories of how they were inspired to get out of dangerous situations and to protect themselves and to seek out resources. And again, while it is difficult to do these things for the family, they feel a responsibility to honor Gabby's legacy by doing this work. And now I'll take any questions you may have about, I guess, what we're doing today. If you have any questions about the purpose of the lawsuit or the procedure of the law.
Why don't these officers qualify for supplemental?
All right, Josh, that's
There
good.
is a
That's good for
government-
now. Thank you so much for playing that, Josh. Let me just say this, again, quickly. There's a couple of comments I saw in the while we were playing that, and Karen, my good friend from the UK, Legal Minded Friends, she said that if there was one arrest, like say if Brian was arrested or Gabby was arrested, or even if both were arrested, it would have afforded them an opportunity to call their families. August 12th is when this car stop happened in Moab. Gabby Petito communicated with her family, whether it was her dad, Joe, or it was her mom. I'm not 100% sure of how many communications there were back and forth between the two of them, but she had numerous days and lots of time to think about this. If this relationship, based on her thoughts and feelings, was tumultuous and dangerous, she definitely had time. And at 20 years old, or 19 or 20, 21 years old, it's not, the onus is definitely not on the police to make those phone calls and say, hey, your daughter was arrested. Hey, your son was arrested. At that particular time, you're considered an adult. So police do not per se make phone calls to families of, they said that they were engaged. He called her his fiance. She called him her fiance. So there is no way of us to tell going forward, or looking back, whether an arrest would have saved the day. But certainly an arrest of one or both of them, I think both of them should have been arrested. If they made that arrest on that day, on August 12th, of Gabby and Brian Laundrie, this lawsuit would have not been filed. This wrongful death lawsuit would have not been filed, because it would have had no grounds, because the police would have took police action. They took police action and did what was construed to be the right thing. And a report from an independent auditor and an independent agency, it was another police agency or a police executive, stated that they made lots of mistakes. So again, I feel strongly that we don't have a magic wand or a crystal ball to look into, but each one of these situations are different. What happened to Gabby, ultimately, I don't think anybody could have predicted that as it was happening, including these police officers. They probably feel horrible about it. these officers all involved that were on the scene there are probably devastated over this, you know. But I just want to say too, you know, the money issue, a lot of people are getting caught up on this $50 million money issue. If they in fact win this lawsuit, and you know how many people sue police departments? I could tell you that the New York City Police Department gets sued on a regular basis daily. Numerous lawsuits get filed against New York City Police Department. But if the Petito and Schmidt family recover or get money out of this wrongful death lawsuit, it's going to be put into the Gabby Petito Foundation, and it's going to be used. And they say this over and over again. It's going to be used to try to help. And I'm going to say it right here. Gabby's mom said that she wanted to jump through the screen and help her daughter. That being said, she wants to continue to try to jump through the screen and help other male and female victims of domestic violence through the Gabby Petito Foundation. They do not want to punish the individual officers, but help to get them training, the proper training, so domestic violence in the future doesn't happen, or they will not slip through the cracks with extended domestic violence training for our police across the nation. And those are quotes, guys. Those are quotes, and that's part of what the Petito and Schmidt family are saying, that they want to continue in their daughter's name to try to prevent other women and men from becoming victims of domestic violence. They made a $100,000 donation to the domestic violence hotline. I mean, I have to say this: I support what they're doing, because they're not gonna, as people are saying, and some people I saw in the earlier chat on WFLA now, there were some evil, vicious comments in there against these people, and the Schmidt and Petito family, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. And all of the victims, listen, what Candace Cooley's going through, what we can just go down a long list of victims and their families. We wouldn't wish this on our worst enemy. It's horrible. It's horrifying. Again, let's just rally around these folks, and let's watch and see what they do. If they do win a lawsuit against the Moab Police Department, let's see what they do. And I can tell you right here, you're going to hear me say this right here, right now. I feel strongly that they're going to do the right thing, and they're going to help other people. And that's what this is about. It's about them helping other people in the name of their daughter, in their daughter's name. So that's what's happening with the Petito and Schmidt family. I hope each and every one of you guys take a moment to think about the words and the things that you say when we're talking about these cases, because none of us know the definitive answers. And that is one of the things that we can all come together on common ground and understand that your opinions and your theories are valid, but we don't know what exactly happened. And we will find out through these civil lawsuits, the civil lawsuit against the Laundries, and through this lawsuit with the Moab Police. And I speculate and suspect that the Northport Police Department will also be getting sued as well for failure to apprehend and contain Brian Laundrie, letting Brian Laundrie slip away. Don't forget, this Gabby Petito case there's a complete and utter failure on our law enforcement branch to contain and isolate and make sure that Brian Laundrie didn't slip away. Again, in Moab here, with the interaction with Brian and Gabby, we've got complete and utter screw-ups. So I would say this: be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for potential in another lawsuit being dropped against the Northport Police Department for failure to do what they were supposed to be doing. And that's keeping an eye on Brian Laundrie. They had surveillance on him, and they effed that up too. They effed it up. So, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this coverage of the breaking news. Gabby Petito family suing $50 million, the Moab Police, City Police Department, the Chief Edge, Assistant Chief Palmer, and all of the officers that responded the day of August 12th, 2021. I want to just look quickly here in the chat to see what you guys are saying. a couple of questions coming in. North Florida, Gary is here. Night Watch is here. Northport Police. Night Watch says, hold on a second. The Night Watch says the Northport Police was the most incompetent out of them all. I tend to agree with that. If anybody needs to be sued, says Karen B., it's the Northport Police. What a joke. Ann says, at DutyRon, one of the responding officers was a National Park police officer. Yes. Do you think that she would feel like she has to agree and listen to the city police? Is there rank there? It wasn't their call. They just came to back them up. And so that call was not theirs to make. It was the Moab City Police that made the initial car stop. So the Moab City Police, they were there because they stopped them on National Parks property or the outskirts of National Park. So they were just backing them up on that car stop. Lisa Smith is talking to Ramona. Anna, I don't know why your message got blocked out. That might have been a mistake by Jolie Brooklyn. She says, just got here, but as well they should. Yeah, I'm thinking that was just a mistake by Joey Brooklyn. No big deal. Yeah, Danielle Baker says, I wish the both of them would have been arrested. I do. I wish both of them would have been arrested. I know I would have done that. Deborah Target says 9/11 operator either told the responding officers or the police officers or it wrong, because when they approached, they said that they had gotten a call that she was abused, not him. Yeah, there was a little confusion there. There was a little confusion. Thank you, legal-minded friends. Karen, I love you. I appreciate you. Hi, Black Rose 11. Love and respect as always. Moonlight View says the Northport Keystone Cops. No offense to our great LEs here. Thank you, Moonlight View. I appreciate it. Natasha Richardson says, bye, Ron and everybody. Have a good one. Good to see you. I'm going to catch up to the current chat. Gabby was afraid, says Jolene, Jojo. I think she was leaving him, and that's why he killed her. We'll never know. We'll never know. Scout Inquirer saying hello. Karen B. Kathy Hughes. Stephen Cash says there is a famous case where a young female was kidnapped and later on became part of this group. She was tortured until she became one of them. Horrible to hear that. All right, guys. So I think that was it. I think we did everything. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you guys could, while you're here, hit the thumbs up, hit that notification bell, subscribe. It's free. Please share and leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this coverage. And this is, again, my perspective from a police point of view. Sergeant Bill Cannon with Police Off the Cuff will be live at 5 p.m. He's going to do continuing coverage of this Gabby Petito family $50 million lawsuit. So make sure you check out Police Off the Cuff. He's going live at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's my good friend Bill Cannon. I sent him out a gimbal. He should be getting it today. So when he goes live from his walking, he's going to have a smooth gimbal. There's going to be no excuse for him holding a phone out and making us all get car sick while he shakes the phone around. So I hope each and every one of you go and check out Bill at Police Off the Cuff and Phil. Those are my good friends. I'll talk to you soon. Oh, by the way, Mike King from Profiling Evil will be joining me on Wednesday night, and Ed Wallace at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to schedule that live. We're going to be talking about Dylan Rounds and everything surrounding that case. We're going to talk about police ethics. We're going to talk about some of the buffoonery that's going on with some of these true crime cases, Summer Wells, Dylan Rounds, etc., etc. Mike King is a complete gentleman. I can't wait to have him on Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You're not going to want to miss that one. I'll see you guys on the next round of videos and lives. God bless the world. God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially the victims and their families. We send Gabby Petito's family our strength, prayers, and positive vibes. Nicole, Jim, Joe, Tara, the whole family, we love and respect you, and thank you for continuing to fight for domestic violence issues. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace and love from DutyRon. Thank you for joining. God bless.